I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here on Black Power Media. BPM is back in the building. I'm Jared Ball, very happy to be your host. Greetings once again to everybody who's already here live. Absolutely reach out and invite someone to join you. Put this up in your timeline. Let folks know on your Twitter, IG, Facebook, or whoever, whatever, that this is where you are. And to those who will see this later or hear this later on all your favorite podcast platforms, peace and welcome to you as well. Got a very big show today. Looking forward to it. Greetings, Anthony. Welcome to the new member as a new member. Roz Elbow in the building. Yes, indeed. Greetings to everybody. Liberia in the house. Right on. Ricky Ryan, Peace, Africans, Leah. Hey, yeah. Just something I, found on the interwebs. Little intro music. I was trying to create one of my own, but between copyright and editing, it was a little bit, So I want to start off. The first thing I want to say this morning before any of our guests get here is that a number of folks have checked me over the last week or two, and rightfully so, over something I said about the Left Forum. I think this is a couple weeks now. What do you mean you can't see us? You can't see me. What does that mean? Black screen. I don't know what that means. I don't know why nobody can see me. There's nothing on my end that suggests. I mean, everything is on. Yeah, I don't know what that means. This is a new problem. So maybe I'm just going to be in audio today. I have no idea because there's nothing on this end that suggests that there's anything wrong. Yeah, wow. Why is why is why is the screen not showing up? Yeah, I see. I have no idea what this is. Hold on a second. Wow. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess I mean I'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. Yeah, good people. I really don't know what's going on. Oh, there we go. So that looks like it's working. I just had to refresh the yeah, that's weird. I've never seen that before. Uh yeah. All right. I appreciate you everybody. Wow. That's wild. Okay. Anyway, all right, appreciate you everybody. That's weird. That was new. Um all right, well the podcasters they had their normal experience, I guess. So that'll be good. I thought it was the Russians. Yeah, my shirt, my fly African shirt. I'm not gonna let everybody, all the jokes stop me from rock. Anyway, no, I'm just playing. No, but seriously, let me just say, like I said, I don't mind, and I mean, I appreciate being checked. And so a couple weeks ago, when I said I had made a comment about the left forum being too white left, and a number of you have gotten back to me, not only to let me know that particularly under new leadership, it's mostly world majority folks, and the fact that Sister Claudia, who is in its most leadership position, has actually been on with us. So, um, uh, and then the comment that I made about the YouTube audience of the Left Forum's YouTube page being star fuckers. So just quickly, the point I was really making was, one, from my own limited experiences, which is limited and has been a number of years now. Uh, I did initially think that the left forum was white left dominated, um, and that the left, what is called the left in general, is similarly white left dominated, with a lot of the same, kind of similar flaws in scope and narrow and analysis and inclusiveness, etc. So a number of people have checked me that over the years this has certainly changed, and it's certainly not the case now, and that was incorrect. So I stand corrected, and to the extent that I'm wrong, as far as I know, apparently I'm wrong. So I apologize for that. I don't mean to deny the good work people are doing. The other thing is the comment about the YouTube viewers, though, was specifically that I was looking at, as we looked online at the time, uh, live on air. There was the something that we look at here, even on our channel, the amount of views per video related, versus, so to speak, how many subscribers the channel has. So at the time, I believe their channel had something around 28,000 subscribers, and I was noticing most of the videos had only like 200-300 views, except when they had somebody like Angela Davis on, and then the numbers went through the roof. So I was just asking if they had an issue with stardom. That was it. And I think that's something that pervades. So if that's incorrect as well, I apologize, although I'm not sure that is, and that isn't an issue. In fact, I was just watching a video related to the topic we're going to get to in just a minute this morning, on a channel that had far few subscribers, only like 4,000 subscribers, yet all of its videos had almost that many views, meaning that most, if not all, of the subscribers to the channel actually support the channel, in most of the videos, consistently. I think we're slowly, as a channel here, correcting that, and things are catching up. Where the amount of subscribers we have is starting to slowly, but still, there's still, I think, a significant gap even on our channel, where except for some of the latest riot starters that are getting, I think somewhere around 6,000 something views per. Most of our videos get 1 to 2, and we have now 14,800 subscribers. So shout out to all of you for helping the channel grow. But we would like to see the numbers per video get closer to the amount of subscribers and beyond, obviously. But that was anyway. So that was the point I was getting at. So I stand corrected. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I mean, in that one, in terms of the YouTube joint, if I'm wrong about the stardom loving issue, I apologize. I'm clearly wrong about the white left issue in the left forum. So I definitely stand corrected and apologize for that one. So, okay. All right, that said, so we let's move on. So I'm gonna do a quick transition and sort of like, woosah, cleanse the space, bring in our next guest and get into something that she has asked me to do my homework on. I am ready, but then there's something that just came up that I'm gonna ask her about in just a second. So let's keep it moving right here on I Mix What I Like back in just a second. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. So since we had my next guest on the last time she was here, I've actually gotten many, many, many requests for her to come back. And as I said, she is welcome as often as we can get her here. And of course, I'm talking about Dr. Nyasha Grayman-Simpson, who, among many other things, is the Henry S. Delaney Professor and Associate Professor of Psychology and Africana Studies at Goucher College, not far from me, up the road here in Baltimore, Maryland. So we welcome her back to the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nyasha, Dr. Amina.
Yes.
Aptly named.
Yes, I had to put it in there for today's discussion.
So listen, before we get to that, before we get to the Amina joint, I do want to ask, because it came up on the Remix morning show yesterday, the walkout of Howard University professors taking place right now, where they're listing among the issues that the work they do in service of all the students goes underappreciated, that the salaries are clearly not up to par. And then though I did not see this listed, I would want to add, as an fellow HBCU faculty member, that their course loads are too high.
Yeah.
You had tweeted recently, though you are at a PWI, not an HBCU, but you tweeted recently something to the effect, and correct anything that I get wrong here, that you had bought out a course, you willingly took a pay cut so that you could have more time, more space in your schedule, more room to catch up to all that you were having to deal with as a faculty member and professor. So obviously I'm not asking you to comment on the specifics of Howard University, though you obviously can say what you like, but I did want to ask you, in light of what we were talking about yesterday and what these faculty members are sharing with the world and what many, I think, don't understand about academia, could you talk a little bit about what you think they might be going through, or what you have experienced, even at, again, what is supposed to be a better situation in terms of a PWI versus an HBCU? So, and any other thoughts you have on that, please.
Oh, wow. Well, you can certainly get some insight into all of my thoughts on academia by scrolling my Twitter page, because I have many. Many critical
That's true.
thoughts.
That's true. Right. That's true.
So as it relates to course loads, I think what people say when they say our working conditions are your learning conditions is really true. And what we've seen over the years, I've been in academia now full time for 17 years. And what we've seen, in my opinion, is a case of like a slow boiling frog, where the pressure to do more and more just creeps up incrementally each year until you hit a critical threshold and you find that it's just not sustainable. In my own situation, we operate on 4 credits. The typical university operates on 3 credits. And so, if you're talking about someone who's teaching 6 courses, for example, at 4 credits, that's a very heavy load. And the credits aren't just, they're not in name only. It actually means there's more classroom time. We have long semesters. So there is an energetic investment or extraction, I should say, rather, that is happening that I think is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen a lot of pieces that talk about the increasing adjunctification of higher education faculty. That simply means that more and more of your college faculty are not full-time members where they're able to dedicate 100% of their time to your learning, your development, your mentorship, your advisement. They are adjuncts, so they may be teaching a course, 2 course, 3 courses, and in some cases, it sounds like at Howard, they may be teaching the equivalent of a full-time job, but they're still compensated as an adjunct member. And so just again, the imbalance between the labor that gets invested by faculty and the compensation, I think, has created a situation across the country that is not sustainable. In my
Mm.
own situation, what I realize is that, and this is valuable maybe for members of your audience as well, is that not all courses are energetically equal. And
Mhm.
so you can have 2 faculty who are both teaching um, 5 courses, 6 courses, 4 courses, but the energy, the emotional labor that's required for those courses may look very different. And so in my particular situation, being who I am and how I'm trained, and this is how I'm wired, I teach a number of courses that relate to critical theory, and I would call them high emotional labor courses. And so what I decided to do this semester, because again, just felt like it wasn't sustainable, I decided to pay an exorbitant amount of my salary, really not on par with what is typically um, required for a course buyout, which is more like 5%. I paid an exorbitant amount, 20% of my salary, to buy out of what I know to be a very high, emotionally taxing course. And I know it because I've been teaching it for more than 10 years. I know what the courses
Mm.
look like.
Mm.
And the kind of, like I said, the emotional extraction. And so, what to an outsider, it may look like buying out of one course doesn't make sense. If you feel like maybe you're burned out, then it sounds like you're just burned out from teaching. And that's where I'm like, well, that's not the case, that different courses carry different emotional loads.
Well, I think also just in general, I mean, especially now, but in general, working people are going to always raise an eyebrow when they hear anyone willfully walking away from money.
Yeah.
Whether it's something big like back in the day when Dave Chappelle walked away from that big paycheck, or something as
Hmm.
small, relatively, as when one of us might buy out a course,
Hmm.
or even consider it,
Hmm.
that the idea that we would take a pay cut in
Right.
effect just to free
Right.
up some space,
Right.
intellectually, emotionally,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
is like, why would you do that? And then I think there is also, and I think with some justification, there is this outside looking in view of faculty is, I mean, y'all not really working anyway. I mean,
Mm.
come on now. It's like, it's not like a real job. And I even feel that way, having worked what I consider the nightmares of real jobs, like
Hmm.
service or offices, or like real manual labor, like that, like that stuff to me is horrible.
Hmm.
But still, even still, the idea that faculty are all just chilling and living this plush life is, and even as some of the jokes in the comments, the 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 elite faculty, the faculty non-academics or non-students know of in the pop culture, often are not teaching more than
Right.
one, maybe two classes, even
Right.
sometimes in a year.
That's right.
And then even then they have assistants and staff. I mean, like they
That's
have
right.
all this support that
Mhm.
some of us, I've been teaching 4 classes a semester my entire career,
Mhm.
with few exceptions, and without any of the support, no
Right. No
teaching
teaching
assistants, no grad
assistants who
assistants,
are
no
right.
nothing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it just put, and then if you just put out one assignment, even if you're teaching 2 sections of the same course,
Mhm.
if you put out one assignment, that still could end up being, in the course of a week, 50
Mhm.
to 100 assignments or papers to grade, in addition
Absolutely.
to the hours spent in the classroom. So it's like, man, it's
And we're
like,
not just professors. I mean, we're
right,
not. This is part of,
yeah,
again, the kind of the spread of our duties. I think to get a
mhm,
better appreciation of what I'm talking about in terms of the emotional labor, I think it's helpful for the audience to think more in terms of like a caseload. So
right, right,
think
right,
about if
right,
you're a professor
right,
and you're teaching 4 courses at a university, and each course has maybe 50 students, you're talking
hmm,
about someone who has a caseload of 200 young adults, returning adults, and teaching is a piece of what they do with that caseload, but it is by
hmm.
no means the full extent of what they do.
A couple of questions real quick, and then we can move on, and if we want, double back to this. But I definitely want to leave room for the topic, the reason, the main
Right,
course of your visit. But a
right.
couple of questions that were raised. What does it mean to buy out a course? Was a question that was
Mhm,
raised. For instance, when you say you've bought out a course, what does
mhm.
that mean?
It means, and I'll say it this way because this is how I perceive it. It means that I invested in my particular situation
Mm,
20% of my total salary. Now, mind you, teaching is 50% of my job. I teach 5 courses. So, really, if you buy 1 out of 5, it really should be more like 20% of 50%. But that's not the
mhm,
situation we're in right now at my particular institution. So, I invested 20% of my annual salary back into the institution so that I teach this semester 1 less course. That's what it means. It means the college took that money back.
yeah.
They
Mhm.
got it back.
Yeah, so that's basically, yeah, that's it's
And as I said in my
essentially.
tweet, that was a radical
Mhm.
self-care decision
Yeah,
because
right
I
on,
don't
right
want
on.
to get to burnout. Because the next step, for your audience who may not know, is burnout and faculty applying for FMLA, medical
Mm,
leave, ending up disabilities. I mean, if you look
mm.
at the health situation of Black faculty across this
And that's
country,
Family Medical Leave Act, by the
right, the
way, when you
Family
say
Medical Leave
FMLA.
Act, or becoming really acutely ill that requires you to apply for disability. Um,
Mhm,
the actual physical health of Black faculty across the country is not so hot. I mean,
right.
we have hypertension, people are having strokes, people are checking out of here. As someone would say, people have died who've never died before. So this was a radical self-care decision for me. I'm a mental health practitioner and I advocate against burnout. I advocate for work-life balance, for holistic wellness. I have to walk the talk.
Yeah, Coco, well, I don't think we're going to agree on that one, though. My experience is that the FEMLA Act has been one of the better provisions available, particularly as I'll raise here real quick before we do officially move on,
Mhm.
with your permission, of course.
Yes.
Is that about a year ago, a study from the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, a report at least covered by the journal, shows that HBCUs face large pay gap compared to their peers at white institutions, uh, roughly $18,000 an average difference of $18,000 per year per faculty member. With faculty teaching at HBCUs earning around 69,000 on average compared to 87,000 at non-HBCUs. The one thing, and I did, in fact, I'll just show it here briefly. I did look up the study to which they refer, and it's um, uh, I would like to find some others and some better ones. This one is not that thorough. Oh, this is not the right one. So that's what we'll be talking with. And that didn't show up on screen, did it?
Not what you just tried. The first one did.
So no, I'm thinking there's something going on with the such situation here. Let me try one more thing here. Because yeah, I don't think stuff is showing up. Yeah, see, that's not my. All right. Anyway, so let me just anyway. In the report, the point I wanted to get at in the report is that they don't differentiate between race and gender. It's just strictly looking at faculty based on rank and in general fields. And then they make the broad comparison to HBCU. So they leave out gender and race, even, which I think would be because even as some cases pending, even at Morgan State, are testing Black women at HBCUs are still not paid equally to Black and other men at HBCUs. But one point from the report's conclusion that I do want to read that relates specifically to, I know, my situation, and I think yours as well, being because you're in Maryland also, is that it says one bright spot, according to the story, is that the presence of faculty unions relates to higher pay. So on the one hand, wherever people are unionized in the workplace, the pay is better. But the bad part is that Maryland forbids us by law from unionizing as faculty and collectively bargaining. So we're shut out of that potential and would have to find other avenues for advocating for more pay or better pay in the state of Maryland. So anyway, did you have anything else you want to say on that? And if not, we can move on.
I'll
And
just
I
say
won't try
again,
to,
if you,
yeah.
if you are interested in my thoughts, my critiques on this matter, you can scroll my Twitter page. I have a lot.
Right. Yeah. Right on. Right on. Okay. So you had asked me to watch on Netflix the film Amina, which I did, and am glad I did. And I can't. I'll have to. I don't know. I'll figure out another way to pull up what I wanted to pull up. But tell us. Go ahead and set up anything you like about the film, and then give us your thoughts. But tell us, if you would. What is the film? Where is it? And why did you want me to watch it? Why did you want us to talk about it today?
Okay, so I love this film.
Okay.
I've watched it probably 5 times, and I love it. Which I say with hesitation because I'm on I mix what I like. And I've said before, I'll come up with something and be like, "Oh, I love that." Jared be like, "Really? You love that? That was trash. Let me tell you why." You're like, "Oh man, I should not have loved that." And Netflix gets such a bad rap,
Yeah.
I think, but I
Yeah.
thought this was amazing. I loved it. I loved it. Of course, I had to watch it because, uh, I'm Queen Amina's namesake, and I grew up with a lot of pride around that name, Queen Amina, the African queen whose father taught her to fight. I mean, I really stepped into that identity. I consider myself very much kind of a warrior spirit, and so I was really excited about this film. Um, I think beautifully, it's the cinematography I thought was beautiful. I'm not a film critic. Are you showing some photos? Yes,
Yeah, I'm holding
yes,
because I can't share my screen, so I'm just holding
yes,
up my phone. This is how
yes.
this is where we are with the production, but level this morning. But anyway,
Yes, yes. So, it's a dramatization of the life, the rise of Queen Amina of House of Land, the kingdom of Zazu, and they oversee the 7 kingdoms in the area. And so that's the time that it's taking place. I thought that it was visually beautiful.
Mhm.
The characters were strong. I was completely engrossed, engaged. I mean, they drew me into the story immediately. I loved how it felt. I haven't been to the continent. Um, And so I'm not, I don't have personal experience with like the landscape, and I'm a very like, what is the land like kind of person. And I felt like they did a great job of bringing me visually and psychologically onto the land. And it felt ancient and modern at the same time. I just thought it was really well done. They had really strong women characters. And one of the things I really appreciate about it as someone who probably would be considered somewhat of a romantic is that this film will disabuse you of your romantic feelings about the continent and what it means to be a descendant of king and queens, kind of one of those racial pride messages we like to give to children to socialize them into a positive racial identity. This really deals, I think, in a great way with the messiness of what that really entails.
Right on. Look, so I have issues with the film, but I want to start with what I have my notes as the positives. One, an African story on the continent of Africa that has African people in it and not cartoons and animals and white saviors. In fact, there's no white people at all,
No white
which
people.
on the one hand I think is great, but on the other hand, as I'll come to in a minute, I think is actually on a flip side one of my issues with it. But I'm going to come back to that because I do think it's great that it is nice to see, again, as I joked yesterday, Black actors beyond Sam Jackson and Morgan Freeman and Will Smith. Like there are more, you know what I mean? Like there's the African world has many more than the handfuls that we get to see. I loved the as you point out, the centering of women and a woman, and I even really particularly liked the child the actress who we start off the film with.
She was amazing.
The younger Amina, who I don't see anyway. The film is directed by Izu Ojukwu, who I looked up and apparently has a pretty stellar career in Nigerian cinema. Which I didn't know. So I'm going to go look at some more of the films he's worked on. And similarly, the sister that plays the grown Amina is that, I think that's Jennifer Ezekiel Ade. I would like
I think.
Is that okay? Maybe I'm reading it wrong here, but anyway, I think that's I would like to see more from her as well. So I like that, and to your point, I like there were the one shot in particular where, and I can't remember the characters' names, but the two male leaders or emissaries of leaders who meet sort of at dusk, and there's that shot of them coming.
Yes.
And I was like, man, that looks so, it was such a beautiful shot. So, I mean, on the one hand, you can see like they don't have the budgets of big Hollywood. So like you can see some of the aesthetics. That's not the fault of the quality of the people working on it, but just they don't have the budget. So that like that was, clear. I'd like to see them with some of those big budgets and what it would look like. Because that shot in particular, I thought, man, I was like, wow. And even with some of the war scenes, because I know Amina is said to have led armies like 20,000.
Yes.
Yes. But I'm assuming because of the budget or whatever, you can't get those huge cinematic.
Right.
So there's stuff like that I just get that and those scenes actually mess up the movie for me, because it's in those moments where I'm reminded most of the politics of it, and I'm like, this should look a lot better. This could look a lot better. Look at how well it looks with what they're working with, and it draws me out of the film. So and then I get mad at the industry again. I get
well, they do give you that one scene to try and give you an appreciation of the scope and size of her army when she goes up against Badere or Badre against someone, and they have that kind of pan out, and you just get, I mean, I do feel like I was given an appreciation for how large of an army she was leading.
I don't know. I guess again, I'm just it's strictly like the budget stuff. So I'm thinking
Mhm.
of even like when you watch like a Game of Thrones and they CGI in these
Mhm.
armies and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and
Right.
and even the Army of the Dead and all that stuff. Like that level
Right. Right.
production quality
Right.
couldn't be there because there's
Right.
tremendous amounts of money that
Right.
I'm sure that they're not working with. So, but to your point, no.
And
So
also, I
here,
don't watch those
yeah.
shows, so I benefit from ignorance in that respect.
Oh, wow. Okay, right
Yeah, I
on. No,
haven't been
I'm definitely
exposed
not
to a lot of those.
advocating. Yeah. No, yeah,
Mhm.
right. So I watch so much nonsense. I watch a lot, So like even like when they, like even I was even thinking of what was it, the big battle is it in one of the Avengers films where they got, is it Infinity War? What where they have all of the Avengers and everybody's
Mhm.
fighting together, and
Mhm.
they even pause for the moment of where all the women get their shot. Like they do all the little
Mhm.
like all, the scope. That's all. They just can't. It can't be matched with that. So,
Mhm.
but if I can, just real quick, and then I'm going to mute you just for a quick second because I think I'm getting some feedback from your headset. But I'm going to just read off a couple of the issues that I have, and then I'll stop talking for a few minutes. You can respond, and if I'll happily repeat anything. Um, so 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 I thought this was a perfect film for Netflix in the sense that we get only intra-African war, and this is the part that bothered me about the absence of whites in this moment, because yes, those histories are real and important, but I still crave for the anti-colonial struggles, the anti-European struggles, the anti, yeah, that those struggles. So like so in that regard, I was thinking like Netflix would love this, and like people like Henry Louis Gates would love it as well, because they love to remind us how Africans enslaved Africans. So we get all of that. Like they love that stuff. So there's no anti-colonialism. Um, there's intra-African war. There's I think there's definitely why we need class analysis, because every time I see the kings and the queens and then the treatment of the people at the bottom, I'm thinking that's where my ancestors came from, and I'm like, so I want to get rid of all of those structures, like and then ultimately the movie becomes, I think it's like women overthrowing the patriarchy is only allowed in that sort of standard because they become like the patriarchy. They, in other words, they have to learn how to fight like the men and rule like the men and be tough like the men and show that they can be equal to men in that way. And then they assume the same kind of leadership style that men that they're replacing would have assumed. And then so lastly, then my last comment is just that it becomes like I wrote here, Suri becomes Black Panther. So it's like this is it's showing us when, yes, it's a woman and a Black woman, but she's becoming the same exact character played previously by a man. So it's not bringing anything particular about her womanhood to the role. So that's it. That's it. So I definitely don't think it's, like we gotta hate it. And I'm not saying, it's not. This was, I enjoyed it, and I think the good far outweigh the bad. But those were some of the points where I thought it would show up and why Netflix wouldn't. There
Oh,
you
so
go.
am I unmuted?
Oh wait. Yeah, I unmuted. I just was doing it so the feedback issue.
Okay.
And you're
I
being
think the
invited to
feedback
push
may be
back.
my beautiful earrings may be
Oh.
clanking, but okay. So after watching it the fifth time, I felt that I had a better appreciation for the different relational images, female relational images that were depicted in the film. And I don't think I got it a full appreciation until the fifth time, and I'm sure if I watch it again, that'll continue to grow. So these are the main women characters, and I think we need to analyze this, or I analyzed it looking at it through the lens of all of the women characters, not just Amina. So there's Amina, who becomes queen. There's Aladia May,
Mm,
who is an enslaved girl who Amina picks as her friend to grow up with her in the palace. And Aladia May ends up taking on a leadership role. And I'll just stop there for a moment to say that I disagree with your point that it is simply a depiction of women overthrowing the patriarchy and then becoming like the patriarchy. I think the character Aladia May shows a counter narrative to that at the end. And I'm sorry, this is filled with spoiler alert, so you may want to put that when you put this out. But at the end, Aladia May does not decide to join Amina as the head of the throne. After Amina invites her, she walks away. She puts her sword back in, she sheathes her sword and she walks away. So I feel like I walked away from that feeling that her character was designed to represent a different model of female leadership that was not simply a, a woman assuming the stereotypical patriarchy. So the other main women characters are Meryl, who's also an enslaved woman from the Regala people, and she becomes, the wife of the Serki, the king, Amina's husband, and she has her own ambitions. So what I saw four women characters who each had leadership ambitions and went about them in very different ways. So I saw Amina, who I think had the very traditional, stereotypical, patriarchal, I want to be queen. I think Aladia May was a leader for her people and didn't share that patriarchal approach. You had Mero, who was an enslaved woman who also had desires to be queen, but she took the approach of, I'm going to marry into queendom. That's how I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to, be upwardly social mobile in that way. And then you also had the priestess, who was really kind of depicted as the most powerful, just organically powerful of them all, that she was really pulling a lot of the purse strings. She gave power to her son, who was Karbakai, who was like the uh, King Gladiator in the group. She clearly gave power to the Mataki, who was the general of the kingdom, and then plotted to overthrow the king and install himself as king. She clearly gave him power because in that fight scene, he was protected against initial attacks. And we know that the priestess was the one who was able to give the Zazo people their power of protection. She gave it to the Karbakai, and she clearly gave it to him. So, she had her own kind of power ambitions, I thought. And then you have Zarya, who is Amina's sister, who I thought was more really a minor player in terms of like these powerful women, but braved. And then they also have the deceased mother, the deceased mama, who we never see, but is referenced. And the relationship between the deceased mom and the Serkai, Amina's father, I think is depicted as one that seems much more egalitarian or nurturing in terms of Amina, pushing her father to honor the oath that he gave to the mother. And, the father just it clearly has a soft spot for Amina, for Zarya, and for the deceased mother, and in terms of keeping his word and giving them all that they think they need. So those are the main women characters, I think, and I thought it was really powerful to think about the different approaches to ambition that they embodied.
I clearly need to watch it again. I was too focused on Amina's character and her
It took me 5
portrayal.
times.
So
Each time I watched it, I noticed something different.
that's because I love all of that. And I'm
Mhm.
glad you also remind me that Zazo or Zaz is the one of the pre-colonial names for that region known as Nigeria today, because it was named by Europeans later on after the fact. But
Right.
so I didn't appreciate. And the one note I just added to point out is that this was why my focus was on why Netflix would accept this film as opposed to why it would have been produced. So in other words, because it's not coming out of the Hollywood Western structure and it is being produced out of an African context or an African film production context.
Nollywood, they call it.
Nollywood, right, of course.
Mhm.
Uh, it 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 is able to do what many films produced in the Western world would not do. I was just focused on why would Netflix want this film, and that's where and so those were some of the points that. But I think that either Netflix and I or you know, or maybe just me missed some of these more important subtexts that are producing some real value. So that's why I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it,
each
you
time I
know.
watched it, I said I
Mhm.
think I focused on different dynamics, you know. So the first time I was new to it, so I was just kind of captivated again by the scenery, the story, the idea
Mhm.
that the story of Queen Amina was being told at all. You know, this little girl is amazing who's playing young Amina, and wow, look, Amina's fighting. Oh man, this is not a romantic film about Africa at all. That was the first viewing. And like I said, then maybe the second viewing, I paid a little more attention to the cross-gender dynamics, how the
Mm.
women and the men were relating to each other. The first viewing, I also very much paid attention to the class dynamics, and I
Mm.
appreciated a depiction that showed, you know, interclass strife because I think they did a very good job with doing that. And then, like I said, I don't know what I was thinking third or fourth, but I watched it one more time last night before our meeting today in preparation, and I completely focused on the female characters and, you know, what I was getting from them.
Oh no, absolutely, right on. And I definitely would want to watch it again. And in fact, I didn't have like a family viewing, so I need to get the girls on to see
How
that as
old are they?
well.
Because it's very gory.
Oh no, please. They're 16 and 14,
Oh,
and
okay.
this is tame compared to, I mean,
And I didn't
I'm
have
I'm
I I share your suspicion with it being
Mhm,
on Netflix.
mhm.
You know, I mean, I just think it's healthy to be
Yeah,
suspicious, and there's
yeah.
something, I'm sure, but it's still it just whatever, you know, suspicion I had, it just did not take away the fact that I
No,
love
I
this film. And also, I agree with you that I'm sure Henry Louis Gates would love this film because it shows the intra-African conflict.
well, he would just focus on that alone. He would just be like, "See, I
Right.
told you, Africans
I
snatched up other
told you, I
Africans. I
told
told
you
you."
Africans enslaved each other. And, comma, I would say that we have not really seen that depiction. And so you know,
Mm,
I appreciated it because it's not
yeah.
a depiction we see. And it is a reality. And the
It
absence of the Europeans and their role, you know, or like you said, this is pre-colonial. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that the absence of European, it actually kind of reminds me of how I felt going to an HBCU as a college student
mm,
with race controlled because everybody is raced in the same way predominantly in an HBCU environment. Your eyes are opened up to greater nuance of power dynamics. So because race is controlled, you have a better view of you know, complicated class dynamics, religious dynamics, regional dynamics, other ways in which people divide themselves because that's what humans do. I mean, that's
mm.
just the truth. It's what humans do. So I didn't have a problem with race being controlled in this film.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, yeah. No, I think we do need, I would love to see, look, I would love to see more films, more good films about so many aspects of in this case African experience and history, even that part.
Mhm.
I'm just, you know, I just can't help but be aware of how some people are going to enjoy and put that to some good political
And
use. So
we do not delight in their delight. I get that.
no, we're not co-signing for that purposes. But so let me just ask you this: do you think, you know, because one of the questions that I did that does come up for me when I watch stuff like this, so in we could sort of move to what I think has to be a close here. Although you're welcome to stay with our,
Oh, no,
if
no.
you've got time, you can stay. For our conversation with Dr. Assie-Lumumba. But when given your work and perspective, when you see a film like this, what do you think it might say for children or young people today, Black women and girls in particular? or what would you like for them to take from it as they see films like this? Is that
I would
something that?
probably, yeah, I mean, I would probably highlight um, the the multiple depictions of ambitious Black women,
Hmm.
and using this as a lens through which they might appreciate the many forms that could take. And I mean, there are many,
Hmm.
many more. But I would use it in that way, and that's what I take from it. I really appreciate the fact that, again, um, this depicted an ascension to power that really de-romanticized, unromanticized. I'm not sure which way to say. Um, the idea of self-determination, of liberation, of freedom. What does freedom look like? I think that there are different levels of freedom analysis happening in the film
Mm.
as well. If you're captured and enslaved African, which I feel like you said, those are the majority of our descendants. Freedom looks different from what freedom looks like if you're trying to maintain power, expand power, as the House of Land Kingdom was trying to do. I liked the idea of the messiness of cross-cultural romance and relationships. I thought that that was absurd that Amina would try to partner with, you know, what was perceived as an enemy.
Hmm.
And also, I mean, I didn't deal with the men. So I'm like, I think you could do a whole show for sure dealing with an analysis of the male characters, because I thought that was crazy. I mean, I love Dunjamu, who um, she would end up being her love interest, but I thought that was crazy how he sold his people out. And also a manifestation of years of internalized oppression because he was enslaved and he had Stockholm syndrome.
Mm.
Like identifying with his oppressor and like, I'm gonna marry the oppressor's daughter and it's gonna be wonderful. And I'm
Right,
fighting for
right.
the oppressor against my own people. And I love that was another sister, they didn't name her,
Mm.
but the sister from his group who was like, "What? You're gonna
Right.
are you out of your mind? You're gonna betray us like this?"
No, on some level, that's probably a nice cinematic device to leave her unnamed, because that's
Mm,
how history would do women like that, or in
mm.
probably anybody like that who would stand up and say, "You really gonna do us like
And
that?"
she
Now
was
we
also clearly a fierce warrior as well, right? She had no
right.
name. Mhm,
we 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 just erase it. We don't want to be reminded
mhm.
of that as we just valorize certain leaders.
Mm.
Yeah, you really gonna do that? Like
Right.
that's what's
That's what
hot.
we're
No,
doing,
yeah,
right?
that's what we're
Right?
doing now. That's what we're
Right?
doing in 1600. That's what's
Right?
hot.
That's how we're rocking in the Middle Ages? Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would, you know what? I didn't even think about what I thought about the male characters. One thing that did occur to me, even as you were just talking, like when you there, the issue of romance. I don't. Where is it depicted? I don't even, because the scene that comes to my mind is where Amina's talking to her girlfriend and they're training in battle, and there they're talking about when they're going to be ready to take a man, to take a husband. But I don't recall, but I'm trying to think, like, I don't, for some reason I don't remember there being any, which I actually like, because I think sometimes romance becomes a crutch that movies lean on when they don't have a better story to tell, or a better way to tell a story. But did I miss something?
Yes. That's why I
Yeah,
said you have to
correct.
watch this movie
Yeah, I got to watch
multiple
it again.
times. Yes. Um, Dunjamu, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, that character, that was gonna be her man. They were like, "We're gonna get married. I'm gonna fight for Sasso. I'm gonna, take over my
No, but I'm
kingdom."
sorry, but what I mean is like the scenes where you get in movies of the courting and the walks, and then the
They
sex
give you
scene, and then the all
three
it like.
They give
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
3 romance scenes with them, and that's what I like too, because like you said, you're not distracted by them. They just give you 3. No, they give you 4. One when she gives him her necklace, when they're at
Mm,
some kind of,
mm,
like, war campsite.
mm.
Another when she's bathing, and she's naked, and he's kind of watching her bathe, and she's letting him watch her. And then, there's another where they're, like, on a riverbank or something, and she's kind of, like, in between his legs, and that's when they're talking about their plans to be
Right,
together.
right.
And
Hmm.
then there's a scene where it was about to go down. They were about to do what it do, and it didn't end well. That's why I love this movie. That scene did not end
No,
well.
Emma, I would accuse you of not listening to me with your right ears. That's not what I'm saying. I'm acknowledging that the sword fight is romantic. I'm saying that the way the romance is depicted, it's not in that traditional slow down the movie, distract.
Right.
There was something else being done there, but that's all
Yes.
right. Uh, uh, what,
Yeah, so those are the 4 interactions, the 4 scene interactions they give you.
I was just thinking of that old SNL sketch where they were doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. Said, "Hear me now, believe me later." Anyway, no. Look, I'm sure there's much I missed or didn't see correctly, so I appreciate.
Love it. Great film any month, especially Women's History Month.
So send me the next assignment and let me know when we're going to do this again.
Love it.
Let's get a whenever you're ready for we just call it, I don't know, Dr. Amina's movie corner.
I love it. I love it.
Whatever
I
you want to
love it.
call it, whatever.
I
But yeah,
love
just
it.
whenever you're ready, let me know. I like
Oh, wait,
that. I
and
like
before I
being
go
given
though,
these assignments. Oh yeah,
because
go ahead.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be a student here, I was so excited because I wanted to get your media analysis. And I know before you said and you talk a lot about media is not just media, films aren't just films. There are agendas, they're propagandized materials, there are things that they want us to feel, think, and do. Your analysis of what the filmmaker wanted us to think, to feel.
Well, now you've messed me up because I have to go watch it many more times
Okay.
because initially my answer would have been that consciously or not, the filmmaker is producing a version of African history that will get the broadest audience.
Hmm.
So even in one of the videos that I watched about the film,
Hmm.
they were talking about, and my bad, I just need to mute you real quick because the feedback is coming back. I don't know what, I think your mic is picking up. I don't know. I'm sorry. Just bear with me for one quick second. Or maybe it's my end, but the feedback was, so so one of the videos I watched in preparation said that it talked about the backgrounds of the actors, where they were from in the continent, their back, and why they would have been selected to play these particular Zauso historical figures. And then they made, they even made the point that this is why the film is in English, because they're trying to reach a broader audience, that they so part of what I would have initially thought, that there is again a conscious or unconscious attempt to fit to to form to fit the form of a broader audience and industry, which would be to tell these stories with those same kind of important tropes that again that I focused on, I think narrowly, as you've shared or exposed, that that she has to assume monarchical leadership in the form of a man, and engage in, I want to train to fight like a man, and I want to lead like a man, and yes, I'm a girl and then a woman, but I want to lead, it's the male version of this that I and I can now be praised even as a woman because I've done what men can do. And as I said, that it read to me like this is the African version of what Disney would be doing in probably the next Black Panther Marvel film, of having Shuri, the sister of the Black Panther, become Black Panther, and then Black women in particular are supposed to see that as some advance. And I'm saying, but I think so. So that would have been my initial read, that the world, in trying to plug into that Western pipeline for Netflix, for bigger audiences and money, is trying to follow those basic tropes, you know, even in an albeit different context. But I think, again, I don't think my initial reading and analysis holds for this film based alone on what you've said. So I would have to go back and watch it many more times and think more about I have to learn more about the industry of Nollywood and its relationship to the broader structures to really, I think, be more firm in that. But that's where I was initially, and coming into this conversation. But I think that needs some adjustment.
I love it.
So thank you very much. I love it. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back on.
Anytime, always. And like I said, send me another, whenever you're ready, send me another homework assignment, and I'd love to talk more with you about the realities of faculty life as well.
Sure.
But I do like the movie study stuff too. So that's great. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Jared.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Dr. Amina, and we'll catch you next time.
Sam.
All right. All right, everybody. Big shout out to Dr. Nyasha Grayman-Simpson. The link to her work and her broader, all of her work and more about her is in the show notes already. Please do check her out. Please make sure you're following her on Twitter, where you get a lot of the good stuff that she was talking about as well. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back and keep it moving here with I Mix What I Like. I will check on my next guest, and like I said, we'll keep it moving. Don't go anywhere. Back in a minute. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, everybody. So the plan is, and I will check with her and just make sure I'm not missing any messages, but the plan is, of course, to be joined by one of my, really somebody I should have had on here a long time ago. She's really was one of my favorite people to see at the Africana Studies and Research Center at Cornell, where she still works. And I'll just introduce her now, save some time in advance of her getting here. But Dr. Ndri Teresa Assie-Lumumba is the director of the Institute for African Development and professor of African and African Diaspora Education, Comparative and International Education, Social Institutions, African Social History, and the Study of Gender in the Africana Studies and Research Center at Cornell University. She is also a member of other Cornell graduate fields: education, global development, international agriculture and rural development, and the Cornell Institute of Public Affairs. She joined Cornell in 1991, both as a Fulbright Senior Research Fellow and Ford Foundation Africana Studies Fellow. She served as director of the Cornell Program on Gender and Global Change and director of the Graduate Studies of Africana Studies. And I am proud to say that I earned an A in her Afrocentricity course back in the day, which was no necessarily easy feat. And it will be great to speak with her when she gets here. And she also just published a book recently, or not too long ago, with last week's guest, or last Friday's guest, Dr. CBD, Carol Boyce Davies. So I don't see anything. Let me double check with her and make sure we're all still good to go. And then otherwise I'll get back to okay, let's see. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, big thanks to Dr. Grayman-Simpson. She really is dope. And she was actually live on hand. I forgot to ask her, but I gotta ask her. She was actually in the building for one of the more legendary nights. That I would assume all of our related friendship and marital circles enjoyed, because it was the wonderful party hosted by in DC a couple years ago by oh my goodness, I just went blank. Come on now. I'm looking at his face too. This is terrible. Somebody help me out. Who does the oh my goodness. Anyway, it'll come to me in a minute. Where's Dr. Haight at? Somebody anyway, but she was there at the wonderful party. Why can I not think of this brother's name all of a sudden? And Stevie Wonder showed up is the point. Stevie Wonder showed up and got up there and rocked out. And there's video of it on our channel too. I got the video up of Stevie Wonder showing up and getting on a DJ Spinner. Whew, goodness gracious. And yeah, so DJ Spinner hosts these wonderful parties where he plays for years. He's been doing it for years, where he plays music by Stevie Wonder, performed by Stevie Wonder. And then from time to time over the years, he does them in DC, Chicago, all over the place. And when, and every once in a while, Stevie Wonder has been known to pop up. And the first time I ever went to one of these, the only time I've been live to one of these, Stevie Wonder showed up, and Dr. Amina was in the building, and it was an amazing night. So shout out to Stevie Wonder, shout out to DJ Spinner, and shout out also to Dr. Assie-Lumumba, who I'm starting to wonder may not be making it. I don't know what's going to happen, but all right. So this is what I will do, because there is something else that I had as a backup, but hopefully we will still be able to get Dr. Assie-Lumumba on. So, all right, hold on one more second. Let me just check. Let me just see what, no. Yeah, Spinner is definitely a beast. So it may just be necessary. You know what? I would like to do this too. And I got some stuff queued up. Well, not queued up, but I have some stuff like this stuff we could look at from that. So I'll ask you all this. I mean, we could either, honestly, if I can wait a few more minutes, we went over some of the HBCU stuff I had wanted to. Now we can do what would have been an episode of Not By Myself. I do have a couple videos that I would like us to look at, Not By Myself. I'll offer that up as an option for us this morning, in the hopes in exchange in the absence of Dr. Assie-Lumumba, or we could just simply wrap early, which is always a possibility. I definitely want to get everybody, we got to remind everybody while we're here that later today is the at 1 o'clock this afternoon is going to be another hot episode of Riot Starter with wait, is this showing up? So it is showing up. Okay, I'm not sure what's going to show up anymore. Brother Jay, Legendary X Clan, Cyrock, and Wise Intelligent all are going to be gathered to talk about Do Lyrics Matter? So that's at 1 o'clock today. And I did tease Wise Intelligent a little bit on Instagram the other day. Yeah, you keep I don't think so. You might need to resend it. Wise Intelligent loves to comment on my buying power stuff on Instagram. And as I said to him yesterday, I'm going to keep inviting you to the show where we can have this discussion beyond comments on Instagram and, you know, little video clips. But I'll be happy to see you on Riot Starter. We had an exchange about crypto too. That's what I keep saying. Like, I keep messing with him because I'm like, I keep inviting you on. You know, it's a personal thing with me too. Like, I keep inviting you on here. It keeps not happening. But he's going to come on with Kalanji to talk about lyrics. So, which I think is dope and I'm excited for. But I had to let him know, like, you're still welcome here because he had the whole thing where he was like, you got to read the blockchain white paper, the Bitcoin white paper. I was like, yeah, I did, which is even more to my point why I'm right. But anyway, but the brother's such a legend though. Like part of it is, I am a fan of Wise Intelligent. I'm saying, yeah, thank you. I know it's, yeah, I got that. Yeah. By the way, I'm not sure that was Dr. Haight on the Move joint. Again, there's sometimes there's confusion over who is who, and sometimes we're all often accused of sounding like each other. But I did post a classic interview that we did some years ago with Ramona Africa and Dr. Marva Robinson. Please check that out about the Move movement and the history of police state violence and the psychological impact of that. I might have to check that out. Now, a couple years ago, when he put out his what was that album with the Klansmen on it? I thought that was an amazing album. There's some stuff I did around that a couple years ago as well. That's it. So anyway, should we, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I don't see, man, that's unfortunate because we did check, I did double check. So I hope that she's not having some sort of issue. But I'm going to, so we talked about slavery a little bit with, Dr. Nyasha Grayman-Simpson, Dr. Amina, aka Dr. Amina. And I've been wanting to look at this piece. Well, I've been kind of wanting to look at this piece. I felt compelled to listen to this piece, but I didn't want to do it by myself. So so I got one for us that we can look at together. And I don't know. Well, I do know why. So for some of us of a certain age, Thomas Sowell has been sort of an intellectual thorn in our side for a long time. He's constantly promoted and referenced by the Manhattan Institute and the other array of white supremacist and certainly wildly capitalist and imperialist think tanks. And going back a couple of decades, when I was really looking at the power of think tanks, it's something that we can't take for granted. The Manhattan Institute, the Heritage Foundation, all these other ones, they produce the data and the analyses that those that they put in power can enact, can build on, and turn into policy that ultimately harms the rest of us. And they historically grab out of Black intellectual academic spaces representatives and world majority folks, most famously people like Dinesh D'Souza, and they bring these world majority folks out and put them on the stage to speak out against the analyses that many of us work to produce around here. So so recently I've been noticing he's been, my man, my new favorite white YouTuber, RM Brown, did an episode about this, about him a couple months ago. And I was, a little bit shocked. I have to admit, I hadn't realized to what extent Sowell is still being pushed and still producing content and being, so I was a little bit shocked and dismayed. People like John McWhorter, who's still doing it, Glenn Lowry, they like have regular conversations. I was actually thinking about getting one of their clips to use for this, and maybe we'll do that at some point. But McWhorter, he and I have exchanged back in the day. I have like a particular oh man, it's so anyway, particular issue with those approaches. So I think if we could pull this up, and it looks like it is working. I saw this come up and I said, goobly goop, to quote the legendary Grady. And I said, I can't do this by myself. So
slavery. Nowhere have intellectuals seen racial issues as issues about intertemporal abstractions more so than in discussions of slavery. Moreover, few facts of history have been so distorted by highly selective filtering as has the history of slavery.
Imagine that.
To many people today, slavery means white people holding black people in bondage. The vast millions of people around the world who were neither white nor black, but who were either slaves or enslavers for centuries, fade out of this vision of slavery as if they had never existed, even though they may well have outnumbered both blacks and whites.
Wait a minute. So wait a minute. So already is the conversation that we just had with Dr. Amina proving its preciousness? I've already told you that white people owning black people wasn't the only and most dominant way.
It has been estimated that there were more slaves in India than in the entire Western Hemisphere. China, during the era of slavery, has been described as one of the largest and most comprehensive markets for the exchange of human beings in the world.
Chinese.
Slaves were a majority of the population in some of the cities in Southeast Asia. At some period or other in history, as John Stuart Mill pointed out, almost every people now civilized have consisted, in majority, of slaves. When Abraham Lincoln said, "If slavery is
wait a
not
minute,
wrong,"
wait a minute. Where is didn't the late great Charles Mills put together the racial contract largely in response to John Stuart Mill's continuing impact? Wasn't that part of the whole point? So that's who we're going to? Anyway, I gotta find
wrong,
it.
nothing is wrong. He was expressing an idea peculiar to Western civilization at that time, and by no means universally accepted throughout Western civilization. What seems almost incomprehensible today is that there was no serious challenge to the moral legitimacy of slavery prior to the 18th century. Christian monasteries in Europe and Buddhist monasteries in Asia both had slaves. Even Thomas More's fictional ideal society, Utopia, had slaves. Although intellectuals today may condemn slavery as a historic evil of our society, what was peculiar about Western society was
So these are the people he wants us to go to build the ideal society today, people who've previously praised the inclusion of slavery?
not that it had slaves, like other societies around the world, but that it was the first civilization to turn against slavery, and that it spent more than a century destroying slavery, not only within Western civilization itself, but also in other countries around the world.
What is he talking about?
Destroying slavery. But that it was the first civilization to turn society was not. Intellectuals today may condemn slavery as a historic evil of our society. What was peculiar about Western society was not that it had slaves, like other societies around the world, but that it was the first civilization to turn against slavery, and that it spent more than a century destroying slavery, not only within Western civilization itself, but also in other countries around the world, over the often bitter and sometimes armed resistance of people in other societies.
So he clearly has not read Gerald Horne, or is just ignoring Gerald Horne and any other honest historian, right? So he didn't and especially my favorite part is that they were fighting to end other people's involvement in enslavement, so that the ultimately, eventually, what would become the United States would have easy entree to exploit the resources of other people's former colonies. Or they were fighting so that states like the one I'm living in now, Maryland, could engage in its biggest profit inducer, which was the breeding of enslaved African people for resale to the deeper South, then the importation of newly enslaved Africans fresh off the continent, or probably from the so-called Caribbean in Central and South America. So Sowell is just this is real good Manhattan Institute analysis right here. This is
Only the overwhelming military power of Western nations during the age of imperialism made this possible. Slavery did not quietly die out of its own accord. It went down fighting to the bitter end in countries around the world, and it has still not totally died out to this day in parts of the Middle East and Africa. It is the image of racial slavery, white people enslaving black people, that has been indelibly burned into the conscious.
So wait a minute. So would, to the extent that slavery still exists in Africa and the so-called Middle East, would these processes still be happening if revolutionary movements within those countries and regions had not been suppressed by the United States and its allies? That's one question that I would, Sowell might, could possibly consider if he wanted to, but and maybe the embedded consciousness of whites enslaving and owning African people is because that's what was done here. That's what was done predominantly over the last 500 years, and almost to the sole benefit of the world's leading powers of today. So, but anyway,
consciousness of both Black and white Americans today by the intelligentsia, and not simply as a fact about the past, but as a causal factor used to explain much of the present, and an enduring moral condemnation of the enslaving race. Yet two crucial facts have been filtered out of this picture. One, the institution of slavery was not based on race, and two, whites as well as blacks were enslaved.
Oh boy.
The very word slave is derived from the name of a European people, Slavs, who were enslaved for centuries before the first African was brought in bondage
by
to the Western
Russians.
Hemisphere.
The Russians!
It was not only in English that the word for slave derived from the word for Slav. The same was true in various other European languages and in Arabic. For most of the history of slavery, which covers most of the history of the human race, most slaves were not racially different from those who enslaved them. Not only did Europeans enslave Europeans, Asians enslaved other Asians, Africans enslaved other Africans, Polynesians enslaved other Polynesians, and the indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere enslaved other indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, to this point here, as of today, this video has 641,608 views. So yeah, people are watching this. People are watching this in large numbers.
Western Hemisphere,
at least.
Moreover, after it became both technologically and economically feasible to transport masses of slaves from one continent to another, that is, to have a whole population of slaves of a different race, Europeans as well as Africans were enslaved and transported from their native lands to bondage on another continent. Pirates alone transported 1 million Europeans as slaves to the Barbary coast of North Africa, at least twice as many European slaves as there were African slaves transported to the United States and to the 13 colonies from which it was formed. Moreover, white slaves were still being bought and sold in the Islamic world decades after blacks had been freed in the United States. What marked the modern era of slavery in the West was the fact that, as distinguished historian Daniel Boorstin pointed out, now, for the first time in Western history, the status of slave coincided with the difference of race. But to claim that race or racism was the basis of slavery is to cite as a cause something that happened thousands of years after its supposed effect.
But that's sort of my point. Even in the ongoing debates and arguments we have within our own Black left spaces, race first, class first, capitalism first, whatever. The point for me is I don't care anymore whether it was started as a base because of race or started because of capital. What happened did occur and created a new context or a current context that is still dominant today, that is based on race. So I think this is such a flawed, if not fraudulent, entirely argument that to say that it didn't start with race, therefore it can't now be predominantly about race, is nonsense to me. So I don't know, but maybe he'll come back and
as for the legacy of slavery in the world of today, that is something well worth investigating, as distinguished from simply making sweeping assumptions.
No!
Too many assumptions that have been made about the effects of slavery on both blacks and whites will not stand up under scrutiny. Back during the era of slavery in the United States, such prominent writers as the French visitor and observer Alexis de Tocqueville, Northern traveler in the antebellum South, Frederick Law Olmsted, and prominent Southern writer Hinton Helper all pointed to striking differences between the North and the South, and attributed the deficiencies of the Southern region to the effects of slavery on the white population of the South.
Because that's what's important.
These differences between Northern and Southern whites were not merely perceptions or stereotypes, they were factually demonstrable in areas ranging from literacy rates to rates of...
I'm not saying how it started is unimportant. I'm definitely in agreement that we have to understand how things unfolded, which is sort of my point. That even if I just don't like that people want us to get hung up on and almost stopped on the race versus class first argument, when today neither can be understood without the other. So I am interested very much in how things unfolded. I think that I just am less, I think maybe it's just a matter of emphasis, that I think the emphasis to the extent that there should be one, should be on what is at play now, and then we can go back and understand where, and debate or argue where it came from. But even if it started with capital, the idea that it's not attached or wedded to race at this point, I think is unsupported by the data.
Rates of unwed motherhood, as well as in attitudes toward work and violence. But attributing these differences to slavery ignored the fact that the ancestors of white Southerners differed in these same ways from the ancestors of white Northerners, when they both lived in different parts of Britain and when neither had ever seen a black slave. Does the moral enormity of slavery give it any more decisive causal weight in explaining the situation of blacks today than it did in explaining that of whites in the antebellum South? There is no a priori answer to that question, which must be examined empirically, like many other questions. The fact that so many black families today consist of women with fatherless children has been said by many to be a legacy of slavery. Yet most black children grew up in two-parent families, even under slavery itself, and for generations thereafter. As recently as 1960, 2/3 of black children were still living in two-parent families. A century ago, a slightly higher percentage of blacks were married than were whites. In some years, a slightly higher percentage of blacks were in the labor force than were whites. The reasons for changes for the worse in these and other patterns must be sought in our own times. Whatever the reasons for the disintegration of the black family, it escalated to the current disastrous level well over a century after the end of slavery.
So slavery had nothing to do with it, and the relationships that black people are meant to have to this society and its economy have changed to the point that a new set of factors need to be made the sole cause of the disintegration of the black family. So what is he then saying? So it wasn't slavery's fault, but it was a more recent levels of violent oppression. So it's like, so you try to address that then?
Though less than a generation after a large expansion of the welfare state and its accompanying non-judgmental ideology. To say that slavery will not bear the full weight of responsibility for all subsequent social problems among Black Americans is not to say that it had negligible consequences among either blacks or whites, or that its consequences ended when slavery itself ended. But this is only to say that answers to questions about either slavery or race must be sought in facts, not in assumptions or visions, and certainly not in attempts to reduce questions of causation to only those which provide moral melodramas and an opportunity for the intelligentsia to be on the side of the angels. Just as Western Europeans in post-Roman times benefited from the fact that their ancestors had been conquered by the Romans, with all the brutality and oppression that entailed, Blacks in America today have a far higher standard of living than most Africans in Africa as a result of their ancestors being enslaved, with all the injustices and abuses that entailed. There is no question that both conquest and enslavement were traumatic experiences for those on whom they were inflicted, nor is either morally justified by whatever benefits might come of this to subsequent generations of their offspring. But history cannot be undone. Nor does conceiving of races as intertemporal abstractions have any such track record as to make it look like a promising approach to the present or the future.
Wow. So, woo. Straight up, I meant what I said. I cannot do that. I did not watch that in advance. I did not watch that alone initially. I meant that legit. I felt like it was something that I didn't want us to look at, and that the arguments of which, I have to admit, they find themselves into arguments of some of my students. They find them obviously into the analyses of people that we find ourselves working often against, and sometimes sadly with. So I think on some level it's important that I feel it's important that I be aware of where some of this is coming from and what the new versions of old bad analyses are and where they're coming from. But boy, oh boy, he did. So I mean, man, the first time I read this I was still delivering pizzas. So this is in the early 90s when I first read an article in the Washington Post, and I forgot who wrote it, but I remember that my parents knew him. Oh man, now I got to remember, because the story I got was my parents knew the dude who wrote that article in the Washington Post and had already excommunicated him years and years ago from what years before that was their collective circle. But this dude wrote an article basically in the, I think it was in the Washington Post magazine specifically, and this would have been like 94, 93. And was saying that same thing, man. And he was saying, slavery, I get it. I know it was bad and all, but damn, if I'm not happy that it happened, because I would have still been in Africa look at Africa. At least I'm here as a Black man here. And I mean, and of course it skips everything. It skips everything from the brutality of enslavement, from the fact that to the extent Africa is held back, it's because of enslavement and colonialism, et cetera, in the ongoing I mean, he just leaves out all that stuff to say that we're doing better here. So we should be it was ultimately to the good, which is, I think, the standard line of those in power and those who create the punditry spaces and fund folks like this. And he's still working with I think it's the Manhattan Institute. I mean, but that one, boy, I wasn't ready. That's why I shout out to brother Sebastian Funes for giving me that idea, because this can't be done can't be done, why you do this to us, pizza boy. Hold up now. Don't get me acting like Tommy in Goodfellas. Don't tell me to go get my shine box now. This many years have gone by, brother Anthony. I'm not the pizza man anymore. You know what I'm saying? Ain't been a boy in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm just playing. Don't Billy Bats me out here. Anyway, yeah, nah, man, that joint, you know, woo, woo, that joint was vicious. Yeah, Ben Carson did the same thing. So, hey, look here, good folks. I do apologize that my planned guest, I hope all is well. It doesn't look like there was any flaw in the communication, so I just, and I'll definitely ask her back. Had just read an article she had written not long ago about the history of the Bandung conference. So I was really looking forward to rapping with Dr. Assie-Lumumba. So we'll have to we'll have to try to get her back on. But big shout out to Dr. Amina for coming through and tighten me up on some of that. The narrowness of my view. I do, I acknowledge that joint. Oh no. So that wouldn't be my goal. So I get it. Like, so let me be clear. Like I clearly I don't have a problem with debate, but philosophically, but really I don't want debate with people like ultimately I really wouldn't have wanted to now I did call him out, so I had to follow through with the debate, but I really wouldn't have wanted to go through, like, for instance, with that crypto debate. Because especially now that I'm clear, like the end goal isn't the same. Like ultimately we're not trying to get to the same place. So I don't want to quote unquote waste time with those kinds of debates. So I wouldn't want to debate Sowell or people like that, because we already know what they're going to conclude. I'm not going to change their mind. The value I find in it is for us, at least for me, maybe I see not everybody would agree, but for me is the value is in again, seeing the production of the ideas that are meant to negate ours, and just being aware and being updated and maybe trying to assess their constant impact, because I know some of those arguments made there they've been brought up literally this semester in my classrooms, in my Pan-African only classrooms. I mean, they are all African people classrooms. And so I'm not saying they're watching Thomas Sowell and reading the Manhattan Institute, produced work, but the ideas seep into the consciousness, and you could start to see how from a position like that, 600 some thousand views, people start to, and then pieces of it start to pop up in other spaces. Like I said, even my man Hassan Campbell is over there talking about Africans who willfully leave the continent and go to Ukraine, to a white supremacist country, deserve to be left there. I actually see that being a thread pulled from some nonsense like that. So anyway, that would be my point. I wouldn't want to debate Sowell or people like that. I'm not interested in that. Just be making me, yeah. Oh, I was going to say make me want to lay hands, but yeah, lay hands on the like button. Hey, what's up, brother Tafari? That is what I try to do. And in fact, we got the AAPRP coming to visit my classes this semester. So yeah. That's the goal. So now I wouldn't want to, but woof. So yeah, we do need a new Bandung. If you notice, Bandung, the white power structure, did their own propaganda assimilationist tactic of bringing the Asian and global South into whiteness. Well, yeah. No, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised that these types of studies, arguments still exist? No. In fact, I think I would be surprised if they didn't. They're necessary because the oppression and the exploitation that they're there to protect and justify is still going. So they have to keep doing this stuff. So what I'm even somewhat interested in is I'm still kind of late and relatively still new to this YouTube space. I'm kind of still fascinated at how a lot of these old dinosaur arguments are popping up here. Like I said, Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter have like a routine, well-supported and funded platform, and again, They have the argument that I made about John McWhorter to John McWhorter on Michael Eric Dyson's radio show once upon a time was I think still the point today. They have no Black audience. They're not talking to Black audiences. So when Black people like Dyson bring those folks, and this would be a point I would feel about debating them here, when you bring those folks here, all that does is give them legitimacy with their white sponsors to say, look, I do have a Black audience to which you can use me to communicate, or to whom you can use me to communicate these white supremacist ideas. So they have to keep producing it. They have to keep, and I just see some of the titles I can't bear to click on. Like I couldn't have clicked on that Sowell on slavery. I'm not clicking on that without a collective viewership. And I'm legit meaning that. I did not watch it. And I don't watch these other ones where I see McWhorter talking about, the woke mafia and all these, the headlines you see and all this stuff. By the way, it also does bother me that they're able to they are able to pull on, again, the strand of the neoliberal fakery and celebrity, fame chasing in activist spaces, and then use that, as I think many young people do, as a reason to turn away from what should be a focus on radical politics or an appropriate understanding and role that African history and culture play. So they're playing on some of the fakery that does exist, but they're doing it for their right-wing, conservative, white supremacist, pro-capitalist reasons. So anyway, long answer, longer. That's why they have to do it. They have to keep doing it. So I'm not surprised at all. But yeah, it's validating. So and then like a debate with Dr. Carr, I think has real value, and I think ultimately we're heading in the right same. We're trying to get to the same place and whatever. And I think that kind of disagreement is of value to the work I think we're all trying to do here. Obviously, the hashtag debate was probably not, of similar value, but peace to you as well. You Akata, but not that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I'm still checking my email, by the way, and unfortunately, I was hoping we might be able to at least get a couple minutes with her, but it doesn't look like we're going to get to see Dr. Assie-Lumumba today. That's unfortunate. That's what I think. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, they're hired. I mean, obviously they're hired. I mean, what has their place been all these years? McWhorter is not known for his research in his studies into linguistics and literature. I mean, it's kind of the same thing about Henry Louis Gates. He's not known for his scholarship in literary criticism. Who would be another good example? I don't know, but in other words, it's not their act. I saw Kamal mention to a certain extent the positive white antithesis of this is that Chomsky is not known for his linguistic work or his. I read one book of his years ago on his linguistic work, which was fascinating, but that's not what he's known for. And he's like a leader in that field. My point is they're known for their public political positions and they're promoted on that basis. So McWhorter is not hired by the Manhattan Institute because of the specifics of what he has written or published in academic work. It's because he will come out and publicly. Dinesh D'Souza, the same thing. I don't even know what his field was supposed to be, but that's not what they're hired for. They're hired to be public brown and black face spokespersons of white supremacist capitalism. So if the blacker they can present themselves to be, to their white sponsors, the more value that they have to those sponsors, because their sponsors need to believe that some Black people are listening to them. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. Wait. I don't know who this is. I don't know who Dane Calloway is. I have to admit ignorance. So, kind of the same thing. I'll use this as an opportunity. Please send any of those kinds of suggestions to imixwhatilike@gmail.com and let us start figuring out, you know, how to get this done. Similarly, please do participate in my ongoing HBCU project. You can get that at imixwhatilike.org as well. Please do jump in the new Discord. The link is in the show notes, and keep these discussions going beyond the length of the show. Oh, don't do that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know who that is. So, you know. Oh, are you saying are you all saying he's a Herschel Walker type? I owe you something positive before you end the show. Oh, not debate, just discuss. Okay, yeah, I don't know his work, so or actually, or Dane is Dane. I don't know. I don't know Dane's work, so but you know, anyway, one more quick check. I'm not seeing. Okay, so well, that won't be positive. The other thing I was considering showing, but we'll save that for another time. That would not have been positive. Anyway, look, so the positive, I think, will just have to be a reminder that at 1 o'clock, we get this great discussion with Wise Intelligent, Sa Rock, and Brother Jay, formerly of X Clan, or still of X Clan. About the value of lyrics. Do lyrics still matter? I think it's interesting since it's not a different world. So many issues they should be made public. I don't know. I'm either on the cutting edge or I'm creating that. No, I don't know. Yeah. I admit, look, again, my HBC, the purpose, I'm very clear, being very honest about it. The reason I started this project is because eventually I want to tell my own experience. And I do see it as for purely cathartic purposes. I want to get it off my chest. I want to share, and I want to, and I want to figure out the legal ramifications, because I want to put names on the page. I want to put it all out there. So I you know, but at the same time, I'm also trying, you know, just like my work here, I am trying to balance, you know, my own, you know, personal interests with what I think are you know, legit political projects for the greater good. So I am inviting other people's experiences. It shouldn't just be my version. And I'm inviting people to share even their positive experiences, so that ultimately, when the story that I'm going to tell is told, it can be done in a more, you know, appropriate context. You know, I've read the work of at least some of the work from Josh Myers and Jelani Favors, my man. You know, I've read that very closely, and some other, you know, in terms of the more recent scholarship on HBCUs. And so I would want to incorporate all of that in the discussions we've had, but you know, and the experiences of others. So anyway, but that is interesting that you point that out, Ricky. And I definitely, you know, anyway, so the stories are, I mean, the stories and some of the stories I'm getting already, I mean, make my experience look, you know, soft. So it's like, on the one hand, I was trying to open it up so people could share their more positive experiences, and it's like some really horrible experiences. I mean, you know, and it's just unfortunate. So, but anyway, so that's yeah, you know. Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that part. He said that for real. Sowell said that he turned away from Marxism after working for the government. Well, that'll do it. Yeah. I think you should. I just think we need to be more honest. You know, it's like, I don't know. Anyway, we more honest about the spaces that we're sending our children to and our loved ones to, and what we expect out of these spaces. Um, you know, because sometimes the expectations are they don't match what's really, you know. In part, Al Unique, we in the first hour we talked with Dr. Nyasha Grayman-Simpson about the film Amina, but the more broad discussion about that I was hoping to have this morning, we haven't. I'll have to reschedule with Dr. Assie-Lumumba. I just don't know what happened. So, other experiences have you thinking Morgan is treating you good? Oh, I don't know. I might be missing the joke on that one. You know, again, relative to the working world, I mean, my situation is still very good, but that's more about how bad it is elsewhere than how good I have it. You know, but I don't know. Anyway, good people. Look, you know, again, I apologize that we weren't able to get the second half of our discussion together, but I am very grateful that Dr. Nyasha Grayman-Simpson came through. You know, and it's always good to hear from her. And she's a great follow on Twitter. Please check the description in the show notes for the links to her work and more. This would be dope. We actually, you know, this was something that pre-BPM had been a discussion of some comrades of mine and I. Yeah, so I mean, I think that would be a great idea. I just, you know, honestly, one of the similar to the buying power argument, one of the issues that I know we came up in our early discussions was how would we make it sustainable? Because at the end of the day, I mean, kind of like Dr. Amina was saying earlier, teaching is taxing more than I think people sometimes realize. So the creation of a school, you know, people have to be compensated for their time. They have to be, you know, and there are a number of other issues that would have to be, but that was one of the you know, how would we sustain it? How would we, for instance, how would we get it so that people could use federal loans to pay for it because otherwise how would we, anyway, I don't know, but that is something that for political education, absolutely. I think BPM and other outlets, I think, are essential for political education. But as an actual like school, university type thing, it's a little more. I don't know, but it's you know, yeah. Again, you know, listen. I mean, a lot of what. So look, these are great. So remember, BPM is set up to produce revenue sharing for the people who produce and to develop a channel fund, for lack of a better. So, and really, it's really just dependent on how much support we get. So that's why I think somewhat different from many other monetized. First of all, I just learned this, to the extent that this information is accurate. I'm still trying to learn. Only 10% of YouTube channels are monetized at all. And so we're already and actually what was said was the amount of channels that are monetized and have more than 10,000 subscribers is not even fully 10% of all the channels on YouTube. The millions and millions of channels. So we're already, as a channel, in the top 10%, being that we've crossed 14,800 subscribers and we're monetized. What sets us apart from even that 10%, from much of that 10%, is this revenue sharing aspect, and that for the most part, the channel is not designed to produce certainly a livable income for even the owners and the people who produce the most. So we are developing a little fund and determining what things cannot be done with it. We do have a documentary project in the works in partnership I don't think we can announce it yet, but you know, so stuff like that, little, not big but little, but more important documentary projects. So ultimately what I'm saying is the more you all support the channel and invite others to support the channel, whether it's, again, financially directly through membership or Patreon, or just simply liking and sharing it and commenting on the videos, all of that helps with revenue generation, promotion of the channel, all of that. So even if you know, as a few of you are already clearly happy to do, leaving comments that are highly critical of me and the channel, please
put it in the comments.
Because again, I don't know about my comrades on the channel. I don't know how much everybody else does. I look at a lot of the comments, so I see what is said over time in particular. And you know, and I do have to admit that sometimes when I read something negative, it does feel good, especially when it's not even constructive, to know that that comment is helping the algorithm. So yeah, like it or not, you know, the more you chat it up, the more you share it, the more revenue we can generate, and the more we can put to bigger projects. To do something that like some of these suggestions in the chat are offering, I mean, we would really need a much more sizable audience. And something similar to that I said before, like we have 14,800 subscribers, but again, we rarely hit, you know, we don't hit even 10, 12, 11, you know, we don't even hit 10, 11,000 views per video. So we need not only more subscribers, more engagement among our subscribers. So if there are suggestions, definitely let us know. Oh, wow. Is this really her birthday? Dang. Well, go check the classic interview Assié-Lumumba did that we have up there with her and Dr. Marimba Ani, the only time they've ever been in conversation together. I did just see her sister at the WPFW, you know, because her sister was is a you know, a long time founding, contributing, sustainer of that station. And I think she says she's about to be 88. So shout out to her. So, you know, yeah, but I didn't know that today was her birthday. So rest in power to Frances Cress Welsing. Man, it was a while. I was going to her weekly lectures at Howard, those Thursday night lectures at Howard. Anyway, that's wild. Yeah, if BPM was around when I was in college, that would have been great. Offered to host some of my work. That was greatly appreciated to have that space. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And but yeah, we still invite people to participate with the channel. There's a number of different ways you could work with us at the channel. You know, so definitely be in touch. You know, anyway. Dang, I'm actually bad with birthdays and you know, like tribute months, you know, even Black History Month. Like I feel like I like to say that I live it, so I don't need to be reminded of it, but I think I'm just bad with it. No, it wasn't posted yesterday. The one I'm talking about was posted about a week or two ago, but it's up on the channel. The meeting with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, Marimba Ani. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a nice little media ecosystem around, you know. Yeah, all of that stuff. So all of that stuff, like, you know, just tweeting out shows, tagging BPM, all of that stuff all really does help. I've learned a lot about that over the course of the year. There's just the impressions and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, good people, look, I really appreciate you coming through. I do hope you have a wonderful Friday. We got at 1 o'clock Kalanji and Riot Starter with Rock. I can't wait actually just to see her. She's one of my favorite MCs, and I'm not going to be that, you know, it doesn't rise to any other level, but I have, you know, once upon a time try to get her on my old radio show too. But, you know, sometimes you just got to play their music. But no, man, look, straight up, Kalonji works with these folks for a long time. So I think it's great that he can build on previous relationships and get these folks on. We need to hear from them. And even as I'm hating, if they don't come on with me, it's more important that they come on at all. And that's again why I think this collective is so important and dope. You know, I'm more interested in the content. So if we get to see Rock today, that's great. Wise Intelligent, the same thing. But brother, you always welcome here. Talk crypto and buying power. And of course, brother Jay. You know, I mentioned the other day. So real quick, man, what's my man's name? Shout out to oh God, this is terrible. So the other day I mentioned how that dude, it's not even snitching because he lied and said that I did what he did to me, and called the cops to my office, and thankfully they had a good laugh at it, you know. But there was another time a surprise popped up in my Morgan State office back in the day. And it was the exact opposite. It was the antithesis of the police. What is my man's name that brought him though? Oh, brother, I owe you a deep apology for this because I was sitting at my desk. I see my man come around the corner. I'm like, oh, what's up? And then right behind him, popping into the doorway was brother Jay. And I had never met him before. And I was on my little bit of fandom. Brother Jay from X-Clan standing in my doorway at Morgan State University. Good God Almighty. Goobly goop. I need a Grady t-shirt. Straight up. I need a Grady t-shirt. I even liked Sanford and Son. Even when Red Fox took that contractual hiatus from the show and they made it all about Grady, I even liked that. That's how much I liked. Obviously, you miss Fred, but I even like that. And when Fred and Grady ate the herb plants, no, Fred wasn't there, was he? Was it just Grady and the cops? Anyway, whatever. Anyway, but when I saw brother Jay in the doorway, it was a great moment. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on there and talking about do lyrics matter. My students in my hip hop class said no. That today's MCs don't care about lyrics. They care about vibe, a good hook, and that's it. Which to somebody like me broke my heart. And then I saw who said that on Drink Champs? Mad Skill. Was it Mad Skills? I'm having a hard time with my memory today. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, it was Mad Skills. Yeah. He was talking about that and said they don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. And he also said they don't care if they get ghost written for anymore because lyrics aren't as important anymore. So that's just, woo, that was a heartbreaker right there. So anyway, good people, thanks a lot. Stick around. Warrior class on Saturdays, Sundays with the ear doctor. And I don't think Jackie is going to hit us with Luke Ma Nation tonight, but she might. So make sure the bell is make sure you got the bell clicked so you get the notification. And anyone else in the ecosystem, go check out all that good stuff and then come on back when you get a chance. So keep on.
Put it in the comments.
And keep on fighting for it. That is peace, because I know you'll be willing to fight for it. Like Fred said it better than I just said it, but you all know what I mean. Peace, because you're willing to fight for it. Thanks again, everybody. Catch you next time right here on Black Power. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like.